Sleeper hit. I think sleeper hit is the best way to describe Journal with Witch because unlike Jujutsu Kaisen, Hell's Paradise, and Frieren, this anime is getting absolutely no attention whatsoever. And surprisingly, even Oshinoko isn't getting any attention lately, and it has a season 3 ongoing right now. What makes this anime so good to me is that this anime feels very therapeutic. It's therapeutic because of the way they handle their problems when it comes to communication. We first get introduced to these two characters, Makio and Asa. Makio being the main character and Asa being her niece. The reason why Asa is living with Makio is because Asa's parents, they died in a and the mother of Asa is the main character's sister. The main character and her sister are clearly not on good terms. The main character admits that she doesn't like her sister to the point that her hatred for her still persists even after her death. And that she does feel sorry for Asa, but the kind of sorry she feels is no different than any child she'd see out on the streets. And she even admits that she can't even guarantee her that she will be able to love her. But the thing that she says that really brought comfort to Asa was when she promised her that she will never trample upon her feelings. And she never goes back on her promise because in the next episode we get to see that the main character doesn't understand Asa's loneliness and can't really fully empathize with the pain she's going through of losing her parents. But she straight up just says, let's talk about it, because just like how Makio doesn't understand Asa's loneliness, Makio further explains that Asa too doesn't understand Makio's suffocation from being with people around a lot, because they are two completely different people, and says that they should talk it out. And it's precisely because they are two completely different people who don't understand each other that they should talk it out. And after saying those words, Asa felt comfort again. Maybe the way Makio shows love is not very typical, but what she will do is give space for you to talk about your feelings in a more safe environment. But after me saying all that, you'd think she's like this very emotionally intelligent person who's able to understand others at just the first meeting, right? Well, not really, because right after this, we see that the main character makes a pretty bad impression with most of the adults around her, especially towards Asa's friend. She may not be perfect, but I do admire her way of communicating things. It feels like something straight out of a therapy session. I don't have never been to therapy, but watching this anime feels like I'm having conversations with these two characters. Oh, damn. I feel like I'm getting a little bit sappy. Oh shit. And the romance in the show is also done amazingly. I have reached only till episode 7. They haven't fully explored the romance aspect of the anime yet, but I do think that the little romance that they have shown so far is done so beautifully. I don't know if it's just me, but this guy sounds kind of familiar. The common thread between the main character and Asa is Asa's mother herself. From the very little things that we've been shown, the main character and her sister, i.e. Asa's mother, they had a very toxic relationship. Asa's mother was very critical of Makio's actions, especially when it comes to Makio's career, because Makio doesn't really follow the social norms. She doesn't clean her bed, she doesn't eat healthy, she isn't the most well-adjusted adult, but she is the type of person to understand her own feelings better than anyone. She knows that her passion is to make novels, so she chose that, while her sister followed the normal societal expectations of finishing her college, getting a job, and getting married. And because of their totally opposite personalities, and they could never get along. And her overly critical nitpicking behavior had affected Asa in a lot of negative ways as well. In one of the episodes, we see that Asa was scared to tell Makio that she wanted to join a band because she thought Makio wouldn't approve of it, even though Asa herself admitted that Makio wouldn't be the type of person to not approve of her joining a band. And all this time I thought that the sister was actually the problem in the show. But looking back at some of the episodes as I'm rewatching it, this show is not trying to tell you that it's one person's fault, because I think to me what this show is trying to tell me is that it's important to prioritize your perspective, but I think it's also important to look at things from another person's perspective too, because Makio's mother too had her own problems. It wasn't the overly nitpicking things, but it was more about the contradictory nature of her words. Because according to Makio's words, back when Makio and her sister were younger, the mother would constantly praise them about how Makyo would be someone who's very independent and can live on her own without anyone's help, and would also compliment the sister about how she's a very reliable person and that she's a very family-oriented person. But as they grew older, the mother would criticize them for that exact same flaw, talking about how Makyo became too cold, too distant, and talks about how Makyo's sister is too reliant, too dependent on her. That probably led Makyo and her sister to be the way they are as adults. And it seemed to have negatively impacted Makyo's sister the most, because just as much critical as she is of her sister and her daughter, she is just as critical to herself too. We see those scenes through small flashbacks here and there. I think what the show is trying to tell me is that just because we can't understand another person's perspective, it doesn't mean that we have to be impatient to them. At least to me, the story shows that understanding other person's perspectives and feelings, I think Makyo's sister failed, but I think Makyo understood that and realized that she wanted to be better than that. We can see her trying to improve live as the show goes on. Again, she's not perfect. She has dismissed and made terrible impressions on other people, and sometimes struggles with understanding other people's perspective. But the point this show is trying to make is that you have to try. Yeah, I think that's about it. Subscribe. I'll see you next week, and do comment if you enjoyed this video. Till next time, see ya.